Now, to me, the most impressive thing about Jon Favreau is how he stays very close and direct with the fans, really keeping them in the loop about what he actually has in store, his passion, his ambitions and goals in life when it comes to Star Wars, and exactly what he's really trying to do to turn things all around, and to also revive Star Wars legends at heart. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new, and like this video to see future Star Wars updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support. Now, given that we are getting very close to Star Wars Celebration, which by the way takes place next month over in London, they're going to have new announcements related to the Ahsoka series, to new Star Wars shows, to a lot of reveals surrounding, of course, Jon and Dave's new outlook on the franchise, and a lot more things at play. D23, by the way, is going to be the bigger event for all of that. That's going to expand the roadmap even more so, and we also have a lot of those earnings calls on a quarterly basis. Now, apart from all of that, Jon Favreau has been teasing a lot of things that he actually has been working on, a lot of which has to do with Legends lore and sequel trilogy lore getting shifted around. And the latest to me I think really stands out the most because he's been promoting Mando Season 3 and 4 pretty much endlessly every single day, talking more and more about those shows and exactly how it's really going to be an ever-evolving process. And what he actually had to say recently actually does concern the sequel trilogy movies and how that's going to actually work hand in hand with how they tell their Legends tales, as he likes to call them. Now, the thing about this is that for the longest time, we have known that George Lucas has been working very closely with Favreau and Filoni on the matter, and exactly how they're going to find ways to really create a level-headed way to kind of approach all of this at once. So, on top of this, with many new projects about to be announced at Celebration, creators Jon and Dave are about to announce the extension of the roadmap as well. Now, it's noted that just recently Favreau was able to speak directly to the fandom about resetting the sequel trilogy by stating the following. It's myself and Dave's goal to alter some canon pieces in the franchise, especially looking over the sequel material that we felt was obstructed and how it was obstructing part of our vision and creating some obstacles. I am usually not a person to advocate creating resets and retcons or anything like that in that nature, but in order for us to explore the vision that we want, we have to make certain substantial adjustments to the sequel lore and its surrounding characters. What that will mean in specific is something that I will be able to share in the coming months. For now, it's all about how we can insert a much needed tale of Star Wars Legends, and actually how those stories are going to be done as accurately as possible, and finding that balance with the sequel trilogy movies that are already in existence, and how we can adjust those storylines in those films properly to better fit our tales that we feel are very important for core characters like Luke, Ahsoka, and many others that we are so passionate about. Now, I want to pause here real quick about what Favreau is saying. Now, we know that everything related to the Ahsoka series is going to involve the world between worlds, also known as, the WBW, as I like to call it. It's a very interesting realm because it's a link between different moments in time. Alright, as you all saw in Rebels Season 4, it allows one to enter specific portals and specific key moments in time. It's exactly why Ahsoka is even alive to this very day, because Ezra Bridger was the one that actually saved her by the hands of Darth Vader. So, when we look at stuff like this about how Favreau's talking about everything related to finding that balance, and what he means by that is essentially Favreau obviously knows exactly what he's doing, what he needs to do in order to find that balance, because he knows how to do things the right way. He knows what is too much and too little when it comes to a lot of things that need to be done in the franchise. It's exactly how he handled the whole Luke Skywalker entrance in The Mandalorian Season 2, by the way. He had all these different discussions and conversations with Dave Filoni about how much of Luke should we really have, what's too much and what's too little, and they found the right balance. They found the right in-between, way to go about doing that. So that brings us to the next big thing here about what Favreau is teasing, is that basically what he's about to do is that he's going to be using the Ahsoka Tano series. That's the center of it all. He kept on talking about this about 2 weeks ago when he was promoting The Mandalorian Season 3, about how Ahsoka is going to be the centerpiece of how it's going to impact sequel trilogy lore, and how that's really going to pertain to a lot of the upcoming new characters that are going to make their way into the official canon. So as you all know, we know that Ahsoka is going to introduce characters like Thrawn, Ahsoka, Sabine Wren as well, you know, all these different characters like Eris Syndulla, Ezra Bridger, all in live action form. That's, I think, the most impressive thing about Favreau, is that he's finding ways to incorporate those characters, as well as Legends characters on top of that in that very given show. And in order for him to do that, like he says here, it's all about really trying to find the right amount of adjustments to create that big impact on the sequels. So on to the next big thing here, he goes on to elaborate. I spoke this over with George, and he was immediately all for it, since he is excited to see that we are ready to adapt what he had previously approved over 20 years ago with all these Legends stories. For me, it's about respecting the fans who really made this brand so successful over the years. It's the OG fans that really brought Star Wars to where it is today, and I felt that I owed them respect by adapting these tales. And the only way I could use that as a way to go in and fine-tune and adjust the sequel canon, that of course we will be excited to share in segments in the near future. Now, Jon Favreau is being very clear about all of this, in that he knows that the OG fans, you know, the original trilogy fans, are really the ones that brought Star Wars to where it is today. And you know what? It is true. You know, if it weren't for the original trilogy fans buying all that merchandise, supporting George Lucas's brand, his creations, and everything that George brought into cinema, but it also brought us to this moment right now where Jon and Dave are creating as much Legends live-action adaptations as possible. And as much as I don't really like to say this, it almost seems like a blessing in disguise, because after all of the controversies of films out there like The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker, or shows out there like Boba Fett and Kenobi, which were, you know, criticized to quite a degree as well, it also brought Jon and Dave to a tipping point where they knew that they had to do something specifically that's going to please a lot of fans that are very much into that Legends lore and just the true, you know, philosophy that George Lucas loves to embrace in not just his films, but just Star Wars as a whole. So I think that Jon Favreau knows what he's talking about here, and obviously this is the right way to go about doing everything. This is the ultimate path to take, is by making those adjustments to the sequel trilogy canon, which obviously, you know, that's something that he really is very passionate about approaching, and he himself even admitted that he's not really a guy that would advocate something like that, you know, just resetting or retconning things. He's not all for that, but he feels personally that it's necessary to do that because it was creating these obstacles to their vision, to their storytelling technique for this post-Return of the Jedi era and all. So anyways, with that being all put out there and said, guys, you know, fill me in below in the comments what you all have to say about this, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.
From night to moon.